Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the ballet dancer. And as always, it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. We're going to start shaker with ice. To that, we're going to add vodka. 1 ounce. Next, dry vermouth. 1/2 an ounce. Next, orange curacao. 1/2 ounce. Then we shake. And we take our cocktail glass and we strain it in there. There you go, boys and girls, the ballet dancer. Yeah, not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Greg and I watch a lot of movies, good and bad. And we can sometimes start to feel like we know horror movies. Sort of semi-experts, if you will. But then along comes a movie like this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Suspiria. Watching it, we just know we're missing something. It's definitely artsy. And maybe just a tad too artsy for us. So if you watch this one, can you get back to us and tell us what we missed? It might be a very long conversation. Hey, but we're here for it. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Greg?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
It's what we do.
Karen, I believe this film was your choice, was it? Was it not?
It was.
What film have you chosen for us this week?
I chose the 1977 movie Suspiria.
Any reason you chose that film, Karen?
Well, the truth is I just wanted to see it. But it does happen to line up with its debut, which you're going to tell us when it was because I forgot to look that up.
February 1st, Karen. February
Yes.
1st.
Close,
Close. Very close.
if you're listening in time.
Do we have a cocktail to go along with our film, Karen?
We do.
What would that be?
It's called the ballet dancer.
I see what you did there, Karen.
You following?
Yeah. How would we make the ballet dancer?
You're going to need 1 ounce of vodka, half an ounce of dry vermouth, half an ounce of orange curacao. Fill a shaker with ice cubes, add all the ingredients, shake, 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 and strain into a cocktail glass. Simple but effective.
Yes. It's only 2 ounces.
You can have more than one. There's no rule.
Well, I did strain it, but then I had so much more room left in my glass, I went ahead and put the ice in there anyway.
I like to put the ice in anyway. Although this, as we've talked about before, I think at the end of last one, it's just basically a martini with a splash of orange.
Yeah, it's got the orange in it, though.
Yeah. I'm not a big martini person, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The orange adds a little sweet.
I like it better than a
Kick.
martini.
Yeah, I do too.
But should we give our friends and listener time to make their own? See, did you hear what I said there, Karen? I said friends and listener. Our friends and listener.
We have more friends than we have listeners.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I think it might be the other way around. But yes, let's.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis of this film for us from 1977?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all the story.
Susie travels to Germany to attend ballet school. When she arrives, late on a stormy night, no one lets her in, and she sees Pat, another student, fleeing from the school. When Pat reaches her apartment, she is murdered. The next day, Susie is admitted to her new school, but has difficult time settling in. She hears noises and often feels ill. As more people die, Susie uncovers the terrifying secret history of the place.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match.
It's a long one.
Yeah, the first synopsis I found was from 2018, the remake. And I was like, oh, shit, there's a remake. I had to put in there 1977. Do you remember 1977, Karen?
I mean, it was an amazing year.
Yeah, it was 1 year after the bicentennial. So it was...
I mean, we were still flying high from the bicentennial. Everything was great. Playing jarts in the backyard.
Waiting in line for fuel.
Well, true. But we didn't have to worry about that too much.
No, we didn't.
Because we were children, not because we were
just
special
babies.
or anything. Yeah.
All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed in this film. What did you really like? Anything jump out at you?
It's very artsy.
You like that about it, do you?
I think I did, actually. It has that artsy feel to it. They use a lot of filters in different scenes. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green, and I'm sure there's probably symbolism to each one, which I didn't take the time to investigate. There's also a lot of water that I bet there's something there too, but I don't know. Acting's okay. A little over the top sometimes, but it's okay. Sets are nice. There's an Art Deco feel to the whole thing, which I like. I happen to like that style. I think it's Art Deco. I get Art Deco and Art Nouveau kind of mixed up, but I think this is Art Deco. I thought the lead actress, Jessica Harper, was pretty good. Little inconsistent because sometimes she plays it tough and then other times she acts afraid a lot. I will say I thought the first scene where she arrives at, it's not the first scene, but it's close to the first scene where she arrives at the school and the rain's coming down and she's soaked and trying to get in and the other woman's runs into the trees, the forest, and Susie's driving away and you see the other woman running in the woods. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought this was going to be way better than I anticipated. And I'm going to say something that's, if people have seen this film, it might be controversial, but I kind of like the music at certain times, not always, but there were certain times where I thought it was effective and made the film, I don't want to say scarier, but kind of. It upped the anxiety where if it wasn't there, I don't think it would have been the same. It's excessive, and I'm not going to argue that point at all, but there are points I think where it is effective. And I think there's sequel potential. And I'm going to stick with that. What about you? Did you like anything?
I agree with a couple things you said. I'm not saying I like it because it's artsy, but because it's artsy, it's got some nice shots in it.
It does.
I did write down very colorful. And I thought the same thing as you. I said, I bet that shit means something.
It's just a nice effect. They can use it for shadows, and sometimes the door opens and it's all red behind the door. And there was good shadow work with the filters and things. They used it effectively, I thought, the colors.
I agree. I think the lead was pretty good. I didn't care much for the rest of them. I will agree that there are times when the music adds to the suspense. But half the time I was thinking, are they hearing this or are we just hearing this? What is this? I don't
That's a
quite
good point.
understand.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that either. If it was part of the film, like, or if it was added for our atmosphere or it was included in what they were hearing. That's a good point because you can't tell.
That's all I got, Karen.
That doesn't bode well.
Anything you didn't like?
There's not really a plot. I mean, I guess there sort of is, but nothing. It's very slow. I know you're supposed to be garnering clues along the way, but it's just, I don't know. Things happen out of nowhere and then they don't go anywhere. I mean, there's characters that don't even need to be there, like the boy that flirts with her. That went nowhere. I thought for sure he'd play some role at some point, and he nothing. I would have liked to see more ballet, really, to be honest. It's a ballet school. They do say they don't teach dance because everyone should know that. And I'm thinking, well, then what do you teach? But they never told us. There's a couple of extraneous, creepy characters who kind of are used a little bit at the end, but they're wasted. Little nephew boy, the cook, the handyman. I mean, they're all creepy looking, which I guess is helpful, but I don't know. They're just do something, either be involved in the plot or I don't know. It was very centric on her, and she was okay. I mean, she wasn't terrible to watch, but you never really understood why she was there. You never understood. People just die and they're like, well, okay, people go missing. I don't know. And then it all just seemed like the whole plot was kind of a twist. Like all of a sudden we're going in this different direction. I don't know. It was difficult to follow in some senses. Okay, let's hear your list of what you didn't like.
I didn't really make a list, but the one thing I have written down is weird music for what I
Yeah, that's
really
a plus
didn't
and
like,
minus, I think.
it did feel like it didn't know what it was. It like switched gears at one point and it was slow. It was too long. There are lots of strange characters in it that lots of them we don't even really meet. But we see them. Not really strange, but there are lots of characters. Like when she arrives at when they let her into the school, there's lots of things going on in the background. If you're paying attention, if you're really, I guess if you're looking and I was already thinking, okay, who was it? Because we've already seen one murder at this point. So who did it? So I'm trying to like, ooh, that guy looks suspicious. Ooh, what about that guy? He's staring at her weird.
I don't know if they were supposed to be red herrings, that we were supposed to be thinking something about each of these peripheral characters could have been involved, but I don't know.
We spend a lot of time with Olga, but she doesn't. We never see her. She just,
she's in the end there, but I don't know. It's just like it just didn't quite come together for me. There's a lot of characters they seem like they could have done more with. She seems to be able to move about pretty freely.
Yeah, when she's awake.
True. But she leaves the campus, she wanders around. And the whole thing could have been avoided at the end if they had just bought her a ticket to where all the other students went. Like it's just weird. Like, why is she the only one that didn't go? unless they were planning to kill her, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you get the feeling though that they might have been planning to kill her that night because
Maybe, but seems like they could have done other. I don't know. Maybe they would have said she disappeared from the field trip or something. I don't know, but it just has a very incongruent, unsatisfying kind of.
and
It's like he
the
didn't take
guy
his ADHD medication, is what I'm going to say, because he was all over the place, following little things that never really went anywhere. And then they're like, oh shit, we better end it. Let's throw this in it and make it the ending.
and the guy you thought was going to amount to something, or there was maybe a love interest there or something, whatever. He even backs up the instructor's story about the other girl leaving, and he says, "Oh yeah, I heard her leave. I heard a
I know. And
car."
so I thought it's like massive amounts of it were cut out and we don't see them or something. I don't know.
But we do kind of learn that he's broke and that
He has to do everything she
so
says.
he's kind of indebted to them. So yeah,
But
I don't
some
know.
people don't live on the school campus, some have a part. Nothing's explained ever. So it had a little bit of that. What's the one with the circuit? It was Souls, that was artsy, that we liked.
Carnival of Souls.
Carnival of Souls. It had a little tiny bit
Yeah,
of
it's
that
not as good as
feel.
Carnival of
No,
Souls.
it's nowhere as good, but it sort of had that feel a little bit, just a tiny bit for me. Like I thought that would be how it might go, something like that, but no,
It kind of put me in the mind of that Hammer film.
it's because of the blood.
Well, you know which one I'm talking about when they were at the school for girls or whatever, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
is that Lust for a Vampire?
Or was it the vampire's wife or something where we thought it was going
Lovers.
to, yeah, it was no, where we thought it was going to be about the women, but it
Oh,
turned out to be the man. Is that the different one? It's hard to tell with Hammer films, but the blood in this is definitely, I even say it, Hammer blood in here.
yeah, it's Lust for a Vampire. That's what it is.
It had potential. And I think the story could have been fleshed out a little. I couldn't tell you what the story was exactly because there's no explanation as to why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, are they only killing people who uncover the secret, or is it some sort of ritualistic thing that happens? Because if you killed someone every year or something, no one would send their kids there. No one, I just didn't quite gel.
Yeah. So
I liked some of the imagery they used with the filters and it just didn't quite get where it was going. But it has a remake, so it must have it must have been successful, I'm guessing, or it has some sort of cult following.
it did. It's done 1.8 million North American
Rentals.
rentals. Yeah.
So did it go out in the theater?
Well, it did in Italy. Yeah, it did. They had to cut 8 minutes of it though to get an R rating, which I don't know what that was, but maybe we saw the American version.
Hmm. Yeah, because there must have been some sort of sacrifice or something.
Don't know. I looked the film up in the or I tried to in the Robin Wood on the horror film book.
Is it not in there?
That what was the professor's name, Karen, we had on?
Craig Fisher.
Oh yes, Dr. Craig. This is like Dr. Craig's like textbook for his class, isn't it? Basically, and
I
this why
think
we
at least
bought it.
one of them. Yeah.
Everyone has to buy it. Suspiria is not mentioned in it at all. Argento is,
The
and
director and
yeah,
writer and
director
producer.
and
His
writer.
name was all over this thing.
And in this whole book of 530 pages, there's one sentence about him. And Robin Wood says the Italian horror films of Brava and Argento have their defenders. The few I have seen struck me as sensibly preoccupied with violence against women, dramatized in particularly grotesque images.
I guess. I mean, I think we've just seen so many that are so much worse than that, but maybe at the time, or maybe as a whole, his work as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, there is violence against women in here, but at least they're not naked. That's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
that's a whole thing that happened. It's maybe it's violence for violence and not for sex. You know what? It's a different category, maybe.
Could be.
I did notice that the majority of the cast was women,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are so many women in it that I noticed it, and so few men.
And two of the men are just in one scene. They're just, hey, that's it. Hey, just to move the story along, let's have this doctor and this professor.
Well, there's peripheral, but there's the taxi driver, the policeman,
Yeah,
the extra scenes, the Batman scenes where they explain some things that are going on. And then there's the handyman that's insulted. I thought he was going to come out and be a good guy because they treat him so poorly, or, the pretty boy ballerina that never went anywhere. And the little nephew that dressed like Angus Young in his little schoolboy outfit. I don't know what his purpose was either. Very, very strange.
All right, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
It's a 4. But the more I think about it after watching it, I think it's interesting. And like I said, and you mentioned that there might be a lot more behind it than we're understanding or going into with the symbolism and things. So I'd say watch it. It's not a 4 that I would say,
Well, it
not worth your
is.
time, but
It is included in Amazon Prime until the first. If you're listening to this on Go Live Day, you have like 3 or 4 days if you want
and
to
there
watch
are
it.
commercials.
There are, but they're not terrible. There's only
No,
two. One in the beginning and one at about the
you only had one at the beginning. I had 8 minutes of ads at the beginning of that mine.
I had three, but it was just at the beginning. And then I had two at about the, I don't know, 40-minute mark or something like
Yeah,
that.
it wasn't even halfway. But then there weren't any more. It
Nope.
was it was like watching previews. Like when you go to the movies. That's where most of my ads were at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yes, free on Amazon Prime for another couple of days.
And you can also find it on archive.org, if you know what that is. So it's not near as good a quality though. Because I almost started watching it because as soon as I saw it had ads,
Well,
like
I tried to see if I could pay for it, but it was a subscription and all that stuff. And I said, no, I'll just watch the ads. It said limited ads. So
yeah. All right, 4 cocktails. Before we get into it scene by scene, would you like to hear a review from the time?
I would love to hear one.
All right. First, I have to tell you, this has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. See, did we miss something? So
I don't
whenever it's like
know.
that, it's like,
I know,
it's,
and I think Dr. Craig really liked it.
I'm not
He,
sure he liked it. I remember him saying
he
he,
mentioned it
he,
a few times.
he'd be interested in hearing our opinion of the music throughout. That's what he said.
Oh,
I remember that.
okay.
But I'm wondering if people who know film a lot better than I know film understood this better than I did. Is it too artsy? And I just didn't get it. Because when numbers like that come up, there are people, I mean, usually there's kind of a range. That's high.
Yep.
That's why I feel like I missed something in this film. But
What do you
so
think?
yeah, I
What do
think
you
people
think?
should watch it. Google users,
Yeah, what do you think Google users think?
89%.
Wow, that's pretty close. 87, Karen.
Oh, I went over.
Not bad. Not bad though.
So I think there's a certain group of people that like these kind of films, and I think they're gonna like it. But I think I missed something.
Yeah, I didn't care for the writing. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. It
Well, and
was
I mean,
very
not to give,
disjointed
but
to me.
she did seem very out of place as an American, and with her accent and her attitude and just everything. So they did a good job with some things, but I don't know. I think I just didn't get it.
All right. The review I have is from the New York Times, Karen. August 13th of 1977. Right from the start, it's clear that the Italian-made English language Suspiria, and I am glad it was English language, Karen. I am glad with that. But even though there was in the original Italian speaking people in it as well, which I don't really understand because there's an Italian version that has English and Italian, and then there's an English version which is all English. But anyway, right from the start, it's clear that the Italian-made English language Suspiria is a specialty item. The opening credits show the title of the movie carved out of pulsating glands. Is it?
I thought it was hearts, but
Okay.
I thought it was a heart, but it is some sort of organ.
Writer director Dario Argento has an unusually horrific slant on life, to say the very least. And this film's most powerful moments have a way of making one think about open heart surgery. But Suspiria, which opened yesterday at the Criterion Theater, does have its slender charms, though they will most assuredly be lost on viewers who are squeamish. The plot, as transparent as the plane of glass that slices up the movie's first victim, is intentionally ridiculous, and Mr. Argento's direction has the mocking, stylized simplicity of a comic strip. A strange, pouty girl named Susie Banyan arrives at a German ballet academy, and within minutes, a monster is whittling away at her classmates. Nobody will level with Susie about what's going on, and in general, the students' compassion for one another leaves a lot to be desired. Poor David, remarks one, torn to pieces. Incredible. The headmistress, played primly by Joan Bennett, is no help either. Though she puts up a great show of gentility in public, she secretly shrieks things like, "She must die, die, die!" The film's ostensible highlights include a bat on a rampage, a plague of white worms, tubular bells type music by a group called the Goblins, and a great many graphic tips on how to carve one's fellows into rib roast.
What?
However, yeah, I don't know. However, Mr. Argento's methods make potentially stomach-turning material more interesting than it ought to be. Shooting on bold, very fake-looking sets, he uses bright primary colors and stark lines to create a campy, surreal atmosphere, and his distorted camera angles and crazy lighting turn out to be much more memorable than the carnage. Suspiria is really quite funny during those isolated interludes when nobody is bleeding.
I don't remember that much gore being in it.
I don't either.
Did we get a chopped up version, so to speak?
I know. Well, they said they cut 8 minutes from the American version. I'm sure that's what this critic saw. Yeah, there's not a lot of gore in it. I could see where they might have cut her neck being slit. You just got a real quick glimpse of it.
Yeah, I guess the first one is a little all right. Well,
All right, you ready to get into it?
yep.
All right. Suspiria from 1977. Rated R. For violence, frightening scenes, smoking, and foul language. I don't even remember very much language.
I don't remember foul language either, but so yeah, I said there's credits and we have some interesting music and a title that looks like it's breathing lungs or something. Like it's definitely some sort of flesh or supposed to be. Either looks like lungs to me, but maybe I thought it was maybe hearts.
I didn't even notice. Maybe it's because I was looking at the archive.org one too at the same time and just seeing if it was any good. Yeah, we have credits, and then we have a narrator telling us about Susie leaving New York to go to a dance school in Freiburg, Germany. And I did make a note that music is by the Goblins. So apparently Susie arrives in Germany and she walking through an airport. It's very artsy, right from the beginning, really.
Yes.
But she goes, and then she goes out and it's storming and she tries to get a cab. She does eventually.
She does, but it is storming. Like it's wind is whipping and it's raining cats and dogs, and no taxi will stop, even though they don't look full. So she basically just stands right in front of one, and she's getting soaked.
And she asks the guy to help her get her bags, but he just looks at her. But I did write very rainy. So she eventually arrives at the school in the middle of this stormy night, and another girl comes running out. And the other girl's saying something, but I wasn't sure what she was.
I
It
heard
was
her say,
weird.
I think I heard her say secret, but the music's playing too, I think. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was then or not, and it's thundering and you hear the rain and it's hard, but yeah, it's a beautiful building they pull up to, but somebody runs out, a blonde woman.
And I don't know if she's just like screaming things into the heavens or if she's talking to someone or what. I don't know. But she runs out. Susie goes to ring the door phone. Someone answers and says, I don't know who you are. Go away. So she has to get back in the cab. I guess going to town somewhere. I don't know. And as they're driving away, a girl is running. We see that girl running through the woods. And then that girl who we learn is Pat, right? Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, I think it's Pat.
That's what the synopsis said. Pat arrives at a friend's apartment. A friend lets her sleep on the couch or whatever. And we learn that she was kicked out of school.
So when she goes into the building, it's also a red building, but not near as fancy as the one she left. And it's decorated all in Art Deco. And there's this window, almost like stained glass at the top, which
Skylight.
I'm sure you said the same thing as I did. That's going to play into something at some point. But just to do a
first time I saw it, I didn't even know it was a skylight. I thought it was maybe a window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was a window at the top of the building at first until we see that it's not. But the Art Deco style, as we understand it today, first appeared in France just before the First World War, but saw its full expression between 1925 and 1940. It's renowned for its emphasis on simple, streamlined formed, and symmetrical designs, where geometric patterns, including zigzags, triangles, and sunburst motifs, are staples of the style, providing a sense of elegance. Geometric shapes, bold colors, exotic materials, and it's sleek and anti-traditional. It symbolizes wealth and sophistication. It's very obvious that the whole movie's kind of got this style. The school sort of does, and this apartment building certainly does.
But the girl, Pat, she doesn't care that she's been kicked out of school. She just wants to get away as soon as possible. And she's like, I can't tell you why. I just possibly can't because you just would not understand it. You just would not believe me. I just can't tell you. I can't. All right, whatever. We get it. Then a window blows open. It's a startle
She goes into the
scare.
bathroom. She says, can I use the bathroom to dry off? And the friend says, sure, go ahead. So Pat goes in there and she is drying off, but the windows blow open and she freaks out. I just said, it's very windy there.
And she screams, so the girl comes in. Again, she won't tell her why she's so upset. She's got to get out of town. And we see her lingerie hanging outside the window, Karen. Is that her lingerie hanging out in the rain to dry?
I guess, because it's blowing in the wind out there. Stockings in a slip.
So there's some good shots right here, I thought. There's some nice shots of her reflection in the window as she's looking out the window. And then I wrote, is there someone outside? But then a hand breaks through the glass and
She does see some yellow eyes out there.
yeah. Then her friend tries to get into the
an
room,
arm
but
bursts
can't.
in, and it's a very hairy arm,
It is very hairy arm.
but with fingernails, like painted fingernails.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that part. Her friend can't get in the room. Her friend starts banging on other doors in the apartment building for help, and
Well, she's locked the doors. It was
she
Pat that did that.
overacts.
Yes, the one trying to get help.
Yeah, she overacts.
Because she immediately says someone's being murdered, and she doesn't know what's happening
No.
exactly, but
But we do see Pat being stabbed.
Mhm.
And then,
I didn't realize there was a balcony out there, but there was.
Yeah, I didn't either. Then eventually she falls through the skylight and is hung by a noose.
I think it might be clothesline, because I think that's why they made such a big deal about the stockings and the slip blowing in the breeze.
Could
I
be.
think that it was the clothesline was used as the noose, I think.
And her friend, the apartment owner, is killed as well by falling debris, I wrote.
Yeah. So Pat comes smashing through the skylight, and then her friend is killed by the debris. So yeah, hammer blood is what I said.
Next, we cut to, I guess maybe the next morning, a blind guy arriving at the school with his dog.
Yeah. So hold up.
And he ties his dog up outside.
I know, and just leaves him there. I thought rude. Okay, so the first depictions of guide dogs were left by the Romans, where there's evidence that people with vision loss are working with dogs in paintings or something, or I don't know, but it doesn't say exactly where, but they're in the city of Herculaneum, which is in Italy now, close to Pompeii, was buried with Pompeii. And in those ruins, there's a mural showing a blind figure being guided by a dog. And there was a wooden plaque from the Middle Ages, but the first guide dog in the US was in the 1920s. Morris Frank was the first blind person in the United States to receive a guide dog, Buddy, in the 1920s. Buddy was trained in Switzerland and helped Morris navigate the streets of New York City. So the dog that he has guiding him is a German Shepherd, which they incorrectly say is a wolfhound and later, but it's a German Shepherd. But Labrador Retrievers are actually the most common breed used as guide dogs for people who are blind and for other reasons too. They are also one of the most popular breeds for service dogs because they're friendly, easygoing, and eager to please, and highly intelligent. The other breeds commonly used are German Shepherds, Standard Poodles, and Golden Retrievers, or Golden Labrador mixes. But yeah, he ties them up outside. I was not happy about that. Greg and I are both so excited that you're listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, and we would love to hear from you. Do you have a movie suggestion for us? Or possibly a favorite drink you'd like us to try? Or maybe you just want to say hi. If so, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the show.
And Susie arrives, and the school staff welcome Susie to the school.
And they're all like, you were supposed to be here last night.
She says, yeah, I was. And so then they tell her about Patty's murder the previous evening.
Well, the police are there. And she
Yeah.
gets introduced all around. Madam Tanner, Madam Blank. They're nice to her. They're happy to see her. Madam Blank
We
says,
also meet the handyman.
I know your aunt in New York, and yeah, the handyman who Madam Tanner insults because he only speaks Romanian. But then there's this whole thing where there's not a room for her. So she's going to go live with Olga off campus, but they're going to show her around.
Yep. So they take her to the locker room where all the other dancers are getting
Students
ready
are. Yeah, I
dance, I guess. I don't know.
thought for sure you'd see some half naked women in there, but no.
Yeah, but no. And they tell her she has everything she needs there in her locker except for shoes, and that she can borrow some from someone who has two.
And for some
Whatever.
reason, everybody wants money from.
Yep.
It was weird because that didn't go anywhere either.
Nope.
She, as she's going to stay with Olga, who's there, and she wants $50 a week. That's fine, but she wants her to pay it all up front. And then another girl offers her shoes, but she wants her to pay for them. And it was very money, 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 money. And then nothing. I thought, oh, that's going to mean something later. Maybe they have to pay a tip or, something.
One of the American girls says it's just a thing there.
Yeah, just the way it is. And one of the things, so there are a couple things. When they're walking up the stairs, when they're going to the locker room, the banister of the stairway looks like snakes,
Mm-hmm.
which golden snakes, which I thought, oh, maybe that'll mean something, but no. And then one of the things they say about poor Pat, was murdered, she's just had some, what was the word? No, questionable friendships. So be careful not to make questionable friendships, they said to her. I said, well, that would get me in trouble. I have all kinds of questionable friendships.
What are you trying to say, Karen?
Do you not like my tone?
And then speaking of snakes, Olga comes up and says that Susie and Sarah, because they have S names, they're the names of snakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, nothing. So
Nothing.
Olga seems like a mean girl because I write in here she's a mean girl, but later she's fine. We do see the cute kid, the boy. Kind of looks like in profile a little like Tom Cruise, but not later when you see his full face, but just in profile.
So then the boy brings Susie's luggage, and then we
Well,
learn
she's
about,
at Olga's house then.
yeah, yeah, there's no room for her there, so she's going to stay with Olga. But Olga tells her that, oh, he doesn't have any money.
Yeah, because Olga's all about the cash dollars.
And then Susie kind of recalls how Pat left. She's talking about Pat and when she left and what she was saying, and she says something about a secret, and Olga says, "Well, she was a busybody."
Yeah. But it's funny in my notes I have, oh no, he doesn't look like Tom Cruise when he's face forward.
So then, who I call the head mistress, who is Madame Blank, I guess, tells Susie that her room is ready the next day, and she says she would prefer to stay with Olga if it's.
Yeah, she hasn't even seen her room there. She doesn't know anything about it. She just says, I don't want it. I want to stay with Olga. They did say she had to pay Olga $50 a week
But they would take it off of her
tuition,
tuition.
basically. But so I'm thinking, well, that's Pat's room that wasn't quite ready, but is now. So I thought, okay, that'll go somewhere, right? There'll be something in there of Pat's that she'll understand why Pat was. No, no.
Yeah.
I was like overthinking it the whole time. I felt like I kept waiting to put pieces together in there that just weren't there.
Then Susie walks through the halls, and there's a woman polishing something sitting there with the nephew, and it starts glowing, and Susie begins getting woozy, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah, that part, it was very confusing. All of a sudden, she's very ill and weak, and because she got blinded by some silver that the woman was polishing, but I think it's the cook.
Yeah, it is the
And
cook.
and the little boy is just standing next to her staring, which is always creepy in his little Angus outfit. But yeah, so she doesn't feel well, but she goes to class anyway.
Yep, we have dancers doing exercises, and the blind guy is the piano player, we learn. And Susie tries to perform the exercises, but she is feeling very weak, and at the end, she collapses in the middle of the room. And right here, I wrote she bleeds hammer blood from her mouth and nose.
Yeah, she's not feeling well. She says, Miss Tanner, I'm feeling very weak. Miss Tanner is like, no, I haven't seen what you can do yet. Go, go, go. And so she goes back and forth a couple times and then falls over from exhaustion.
Then we cut to them forcing Susie to drink liquids.
Yeah,
They're pouring it
literally
down her.
down her throat from a big pitcher.
And then the doctor gives her a shot.
Yeah, I don't
And,
know what that is.
and apparently Olga has kicked her out of her apartment because all of her stuff is there, and the handyman's unpacking her her clothes and crap, and she's going to stay at the school from now on, I guess. Something about the doctor says something about needing fluids to blood her because of her blood loss or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird what he says. No fruit, but drink wine with every meal. And she has to eat bland stuff and she has to rest. He was talking about hemorrhaging because she tore tiny bits in her it was I in her ligaments or something. He was just making crap up. And then I'm like, okay, well, he's in on it, right? Because he's making her drink wine every night. But yeah, we never see him again either.
Yep. So then Sarah comes to see Susie, who we learned. Well, we met Sarah already, didn't we, in the locker room?
Yeah, they're neighbors, so their
And
rooms are
Susie says she's
next
feeling
to each
much
other.
better. It's like nothing happened. She doesn't feel sick at all. And then I wrote the
She,
handyman brings her dinner? Question mark.
yeah. So whatever was in that shot made her feel amazeballs,
Yeah, I
or the
guess.
spell is wearing off, or I don't know.
So then we see Susie combing her hair, wind banging it against the window again. And then Susie finds maggots in her hair and on her comb as well. And then maggots begin falling from the ceiling, Karen.
But not just in her room.
Nope. The whole floor, apparently. I don't know. Teacher sends everyone downstairs. I guess Miss Tanner, right? She and the boy, Mark is his name, go upstairs to look for the source. And there's maggots up there everywhere. And there's a crate, I guess, filled with maggots.
Yeah, it's like the attic or something.
Yep. Right here, I had an ad. An
Well,
ad
they
right there.
open it up and I'm like, is that a human being or
Yeah, I
something?
didn't
What's
know
in
what it was.
I couldn't tell what it was. And then yeah, we went to commercial.
Commercial. Back from commercial. Madame Blanc is apologizing to all the students for the maggots. They had some food delivered and apparently it spoiled.
Well, they kept it in the attic.
I know. The other floors of the building are fine. So the students have to sleep in the dance hall together, I guess.
The dance hall.
I don't know. What is it?
It's a practice room. Yeah, it's a dance hall. I mean, it just
So then Sarah smokes a Marlboro.
they all smoke in this movie, which is weird because you would think I'm always surprised
It's
when
just Sarah. Sarah and
athletes
Susie are
smoke.
only two we see smoking. Sarah smokes a Marlboro and tells Susie that the teachers go home every night. They don't stay at the school because she can hear them walking away. For some reason, Sarah's very concerned about what the teachers do
Yeah.
when they all go to bed. I don't know why.
Susie or Sarah? Susie
Sarah.
is. Oh.
Sarah's concerned.
Oh, yeah. She's
So then it's lights out or shadows on the sheets.
yeah, so they've set up sheets and basically big circle, brought in the mattresses, and all the girls are going to sleep together in that room,
I guess the
temporary
boy
room.
is on the other side of the sheets or something because we see him waving at Susie from above
Yeah.
the
And he
sheets.
blows her a kiss. And that's why I thought, oh, okay, that's going to go somewhere. No, doesn't.
Then he waves very creepily because he keeps
Yes,
waving as he
as he,
disappears behind the sheet, but whatever. And we see shadow on the sheets, someone getting into bed, and they snore, Karen.
yeah, but when she goes into bed, she almost looks like an X-ray.
She
If you can,
does.
which was kind of cool, I must say. You could see her hair and kind of the outline of her head, and then, but her bones, her leg especially, looked like you were looking at an X-ray. That was a cool shot.
And Sarah thinks that it's Madame Blanc is the one
No, she
snoring,
calls him some. No, she calls him
the headmistress.
someone higher up, I think.
So this is a person we never see that
Yeah, she's supposed to be out of
runs the
town.
school.
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote the
But
directress.
yes, that's what she called her. But she says that the directress stayed in the room next to hers once and she snored just the same. She'll never forget the whistle when she snored. And that's what they hear. And it's right behind them
Yeah.
in the shadow on the sheets. It was pretty cool looking, I will say that.
So then apparently the dormitory's been cleaned up by the maggots because we see the guys there cleaning it.
The fumigators, yeah.
And then the handyman brings Susie her dinner again. And then Sarah and Susie listen as footsteps of the teachers echo through the halls.
The blind guy shows up with his dog too, because I said they better not kill the dog.
And Susie's kind of out of it, but she does point out that the footprints are going the wrong direction to be leaving the school. They're not leaving, they're going somewhere inside the school.
Yeah, the footsteps.
Sarah's very impressed with that.
Yeah, Sarah thinks Susie's a genius.
Yeah, she's very worried about what's going on with the teachers. I don't know why, but
right. And Susie's just out. Obviously, she's being drugged because she's very sleepy and she can't wake up.
yeah, Sarah tries to wake Susie. She wants to find out where the teachers go. And Sarah begins counting the footsteps of the teachers so that she can try to find out where they're going. Weird music.
Is this where she calls it arid? Oh God, it's like Aridne's thread.
I don't know.
Well, we're going to say she did. So she can't quite wake up Susie. But she says, Susie tells her that the teachers aren't going out the door because it's in the opposite direction of where they're walking. Sarah says, oh, I bet I can figure out where they go if I make a record of their steps. And she said it'd be like Ariadne's thread. So Ariadne is Greek mythology, and she was the daughter of King Minos of Crete. She falls in love with Theseus, who's the Greek hero who comes to Crete to slay the Minotaur, which is half man, half beast, who lives in the labyrinth. So Ariadne gives Theseus a ball of yarn, so as he unwinds it into the labyrinth, he'll be able to come back out. And he does, and he slays the Minotaur, comes out of the labyrinth, and they leave together. When you use that term, it's kind of a little bit like saying trial and error. But it's not exactly that, but it sort of is. It's solving a problem which has multiple apparent ways to proceed, such as physical maze, logical puzzle, or ethical dilemma. But what I think she's actually thinking is it is like the thread, because she's got a way to go into the labyrinth and come back out because she knows how many steps they're taking. And she's keeping a little notebook and notes. And I think somewhere, if not here, she says Pat was doing sort of the same thing.
Then we have a shot of them panning through the hallways of the school, which I thought was pretty good, and ends on the moon.
Yes, which is not quite full, but close.
No. So then we see Daniel, who's the blind guy, walking his dog in the streets. I guess he's going home. I don't know.
Yeah, this was weird.
It's deserted, though. There's nobody out, so.
He looks like Rick Ocasek.
And
to give you all a visual.
His dog barks and lunges at something, and Daniel asks who's there. Who's there?
Yeah. You know, to be fair, though, it was interesting. There is no one in the piazza is what it is. It's the big square in front of a couple of buildings. He does walk by a couple of people. There's some policemen and things, and the dog just starts growling and barking and getting very upset. And I thought, when you think about it, that would be a very scary situation because you can't see and your dog is flipping out and he doesn't know which direction something might be coming from. I thought that when you put yourself in that position, it's very scary. But I don't know why this scene was even in there.
I don't know.
Like, why do you
it's long too. This is when and nothing happens for a long time except they're standing in the square and the dog is barking every now and then we have birds, and then we have bird's eye view, and then I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it almost looks like someone's following him with a camera technique, but I didn't know if that was a point of view camera or just what they were using. And he keeps saying, who's there? What is it? Who's there? And he starts to panic, as you would, I think, in that situation. But there's some shadow work. There's some birds, like you said. And then
the dog turns on Daniel and bites him in the neck. He gone.
Yeah. But why? Why do you need to get rid of Daniel?
I don't know.
That's what I mean. There's no follow-up. There's no, we did it because...
In the plot summary I was reading, it says that Daniel was fired that day. But we never saw that in what we watched.
No. But maybe if he was fired, did he know something? And that's why they had to kill him? It was just out of the blue. He's just the pianist,
Yeah. Oh, the dog bit Albert, her nephew.
Oh.
Or the nephew or whatever.
But the dog's outside.
Yeah, and so he was fired, according to the summary I was looking at.
Oh, we definitely didn't see that.
No.
Because she did make a point to say how fond she was of her nephew.
Yeah. But he gone. So then Susie meets with Madame Blanc, and she tells her about what she heard Pat say. And the headmistress calls the police, and she does make a remark that, why is it taking you 2 days to come with with this information or
Yeah, she said
whatever.
something about a secret and the flower and the flower
Our Iris.
iris. Yeah.
So then we see Sarah and Susie at the pool, Karen.
I said, well, those are some groovy bathing suits.
Yeah, I think there were two pieces though too, because it was
Well,
like
we
a
saw some
tank
other
top
girls that
and
were
a
in some
bikini.
very revealing bikinis, but these girls were just in like their underwear and tank tops or something.
Yeah, so they're in the pool.
But again, this is another one that's like, why do we need? I mean, it's a
And
cool pool though.
yeah, Sarah tells Susie that Pat was talking to her when she was leaving the school. They swim, and Pat was taking notes before she left. Sarah says she will show them to Susie later. So
And
apparently, Sarah was the person who answered the door phone or whatever.
right. And she never admits, she doesn't tell Susie that until now.
Yeah. So then we cut to Sarah trying to wake Susie up, trying to tell her that the notes are missing. The Pat left. And I wrote, Sarah really wants to find out where the teachers go at night. She is like
Yes.
obsessed with this shit. I don't understand it. But Susie falls asleep.
This is the first time, though, we hear the word witches.
We do. And then Sarah I wrote, hears laughter in the hallway and turns out the light. I'm assuming she hears it. So she freaks out and leaves. And then someone enters Susie's room. Does this person enter through the bathroom or something? What is going on there? There's a door that they come into.
I don't know, but Sarah
The
hides the
light comes
note.
in on in that room, and
Oh, yeah, it's some weird. I didn't see anyone come in. The
yeah,
armoire just lights up or something. I
yeah.
don't know.
But the door opened, and I think someone came in.
No,
So
I didn't see that. But
and
she does leave one note, what she was carrying with her about the footsteps. She leaves with Susie. Susie doesn't know because Susie's asleep. But yeah, then the light comes on and scares Sarah, and Sarah runs into the hallway.
then we're led to believe that she's being followed through the halls by whoever
Yes.
was in the room. So Sarah goes up to the attic. We see someone following her, and then we get a quick shot of a straight razor. So then Sarah screams and breaks through some glass. She goes through a door and locks it. Then we see a straight razor sticking through the door, trying to unlatch it. Then Sarah stacks some luggage to try to get out a window.
She's not good at base building. And I
Yeah.
was like, I kept saying to put something heavy in front of the door, put something heavy in front of the door. No. So then I was like, okay, now she's put the smallest suitcase on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not going to work. But she didn't fall there. She got out the window. It's not solid, but it supports her through the window.
She goes out the window and eventually falls into a pit of razor wire.
Is that the same as barbed wire?
No, it's different.
Okay, because I looked up a bunch about barbed wire, but it didn't look like barbed wire
No,
to me.
razor wires, what's like on the top of those fences, like in prison yards and whatnot.
I always thought that was barbed wire,
No, it's
but
razor wire.
okay, so it's just
It's a
extra
lot
sharp.
worse than
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because
It's got little barbs. It's got little razors.
yeah. So I was confused, and I realized as soon as you said that, I was like, that's what it was. So I'm not going to tell you all about barbed wire until another time.
That's it, Karen. Leave them
I'm
hanging
teasing it.
on.
I'm teasing them of who had the first patent for barbed wire in the United States. I'm not even going to tell you.
You're gonna have to wait
Yes.
to another episode, boys and
Dun,
girls.
dun, dun. So yeah, it's just a pit. It's like a ball pit, but instead of balls, it's got razor wire in it,
Yeah.
and it's not good.
So she gets all tangled up in it and tries to escape, and then her throat is slit with the razor, straight razor we see.
Oh, she's in there for quite a while, screaming, trying to get to the open door. She gets close, and someone in a black glove, with their hand in a black glove, covers her mouth and slits her throat.
So then we see Susie going to Sarah's room.
And it looks rummaged through.
Yes, the next day. Miss Tanner tells Susie that Sarah left that morning.
At first, she says she's disappeared or vanished. She says she's vanished. And then she says, yeah, she left at early this morning. I'm like, well, that's not vanishing. I mean, if they know.
And Mark collaborates her story, saying she heard her footsteps leaving the building and then he heard a car drive away. Lots of footsteps in this. Lots of people hearing
Yes.
footsteps. So then Susie calls Sarah's friend and asks if they know where she is. She tells them that she has left and Susie is suspicious.
Right. Sarah had told Susie about, about, she hadn't told anyone what Pat had told her except this one friend of hers. And that's who Susie calls.
Then Susie meets with Sarah's friend Frank. And when it turns out Sarah was one of Frank's patients, he is a psychiatrist. And he tells Susie that Sarah learned that the school was founded by someone thought to be a witch, Helena Marcos.
Yeah. And Frank it's fine, but he's drinking out of a glass cup, like a Coke or something. I don't know what he's got, but it was weird. He's a younger guy, a psychiatrist. And Sarah had a nervous breakdown after her mother's death.
And he tells a story about the witch and how she died in a fire,
She's a
whatever.
Greek immigrant that the local people believed her to be a witch. Yeah, and she eventually died in the fire.
Psychiatrist doesn't believe all that supernatural shit, but he introduces Susie to Professor who specializes in the occult.
That was just happened to be standing
Just
right
happened to be
there.
standing there. Yep.
Yeah.
So the Susie asked the professor if he believes in witches, and he says he has known some women who considered themselves witches,
Oh, I
and that
thought he said something like, I've known some women who could be called witches. And I thought he was being like sarcastic and not nice about women, but what he said makes more sense if it was the way you said it.
yeah, but he does say witches can only do harm,
Yeah, he goes off on witches.
and their goal is to achieve great personal wealth at the expense of others. The professor tells her that the woman who founded the academy, Helena Marcos, was a very powerful dark queen.
Yes, known as the Dark Queen.
He also tells her that a coven, a group of witches, gets its power from its leader, and without the leader, the coven will fail, basically. So then Susie goes back to school, finds out that all the students have left and gone
She
to a
wakes up. So
ballet.
I think she's had dinner. So I don't know. At one point, she stops eating the dinner. Was it that night? Might have been.
Yep.
But she comes out and everybody's gone.
Susie tries to call Frank, but the call is disconnected. Then
Yeah,
Susie
there's another
begins.
storm. So the electricity is going out and the phone line doesn't work either,
Susie begins flushing all of her food down the toilet,
which was a lot.
and she tries to pour the red wine down the sink and rinse it out, but it does not come clean very well with water, Karen. I said it looks a lot like hammer blood again. So it looks like they were making her drink blood to me, but I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
So then a bat flies into Susie's room and gets tangled in her hair, and the bat ends up flapping around on the floor towards Susie. She throws a blanket over it and smashes it with a table.
Yeah, it's a towel. I think she's in the bathroom,
Yeah,
but smashes it with a stool top. Like,
right.
yeah. I was like, I would have thrown it out the window. But it didn't bite. I was expecting there to be bite marks on her face or something,
No.
but no, it's just a
Or her
bat.
hands, because she was like, her hands were
Yeah.
getting very close to it, but too.
And it
But
was big bat.
then we see Susie smoking a hand-rolled cigarette. She looks at Sarah's notes about the footsteps and she begins counting the footsteps because, again, people are walking around outside in the hallway. So she goes out and she starts counting off the number of footsteps she heard, and then she ends up sneaking past the cooks. And then she ends up in a room with no other exit, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know how she would hear these footsteps so far away, but she's following basically a map of footsteps. It says, 7 footsteps this way, and then it stops, and then 8 foot, and so she knows to turn and all that. Did you notice in this that all the doorknobs were very high? on all
They
the
were.
doors.
Actually.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. I didn't notice it, but yeah. So then she recalls what she heard Pat say when as she was leaving about the secret and the iris on the door. Turn the blue one. So Susie sees a blue iris on the wall. She goes to turn it, and a secret door opens.
There's a mural there and it has a bunch of doors in it, but I could see the door when she went in.
She goes through the door and follows a hallway to a room where she sees all the other teachers. Madame Blank is saying she must vanish and die. And she drinks some liquid and says, "Give me power." And she says something about sickness, and Susie kind of shudders like she feels it.
Yeah. So why did they want her dead?
I don't know.
Like that's never explained. She has to die. Why?
Don't know.
I guess because she had the knowledge that she knew something was, but she still didn't know anything. But yeah, she's like, die, die, die. It's very intense.
Then Susie finds the body of Sarah. Then the handyman lights a lighter. And was this her lighter that we saw a
I
couple
think it
times
was
earlier?
Sarah's.
Sarah's. Lights a lighter and starts walking towards Susie. She exits through a door. We hear the snoring again.
She
Susie
ends up in a
tries.
room and it's the directress's room because she's enclosed. The bed's enclosed by sheets hung, I would say,
Bed
curtains, I guess,
bed
bed
curtains.
curtains. And again, there's shadows. But she knocked over a peacock statue when she went in, and a bunch of feathers, statue feathers with sharp points on them, fell to the ground. And she picks up one, I think.
Well, there's balls on the like billiard balls or something on this
But
statue
I think
too.
they're bocce balls.
Bocce balls, and they hit the floor and roll right to the bed of whoever is sleeping there. That whatever you called her,
Directress.
directress. And then we learn that the directress is Helena Marcos. She says she has been expecting her. And then Helena Marcos disappears as Susie is going to stab her with one of
Because
the.
she taunts her, like, you want to kill me? You want, or something.
Yeah, she does. And then a door opens and the corpse of Sarah goes toward Susie to stab her with a knife or something. And then lightning flashes and Susie sees a silhouette on the bed when the lightning flashes. And then she stabs at it and she ends up stabbing Helena Marcos through the neck with one of these peacock feathers, you called them.
What was a peacock she knocked over, and those
It
were the
was.
feathers.
Since then, glasses explode in the room and everything starts flying across the room. All hell's breaking loose. Susie runs out and sees the other teachers all seemingly being affected by the stab wound to Helena Marcos. They're all holding their necks and in a great deal of pain, apparently.
And lots of hammer blood.
Everything's exploding. Door busts open and Susie runs out. She runs out of the school into the pouring rain again. And
Yes, it's
then
full circle at this point.
and then she kind of like calmly smiles as she walks away and the school goes up in flames. Credits, the end.
So, one of the things, the reasons I think that there could be a sequel, all of the students were out of the building. So, some of the students could have been involved in this whole operation. So, maybe they just get a new coven head. Or we don't really see anyone die. We just see one flame or one window with flames in it. We're assuming they do, but we don't know for sure.
I'll give you your sequel potential, Karen, I guess.
I'm pushing hard for it. I wouldn't have given it remake potential, but here we are. So
All right. What'd you think of the cocktail, Karen?
it's all right.
It's all right for a vodka martini
No, it's all right because it's a vodka martini.
with orange.
It's a little too much alcohol for me. You know, I like a mixer. So,
Yes. I was thinking that as I was making it. This is all alcohol.
but I like the orange in it.
Yeah, I do too. I like it.
Feels sophisticated. It even kind of feels a little art deco. You know, like you could see yourself drinking it in a bar decorated like that.
Yeah. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Well, we learned about guide dogs, Ariadne's thread, Art Deco, and who the first guard dog was in the United States. And, I'm going to save the whole barbed wire stuff. That nugget staying with me until I'm sure another horror film will have barbed wire at some point.
We can only hope, Karen.
I know.
Are we ready to move on to next week's film?
Absolutely. What do you got?
Next week, Karen, we are going to review the film The Woman in Black from 2012.
Ooh,
Another Hammer film.
knocking them out.
It was when this was like the Hammer revival. One of the first films during the Hammer revival when they started putting films out again. My wife and I,
2012?
yep, my wife and I saw this in the theater.
Oh, wow. Okay. Why did you choose that one? Is it just because it's a Hammer film?
Well, our next episode comes out February 5th, and The Woman in Black was released February 3rd, Karen.
Nice. Do you have a drink to go with it?
I do, Karen.
And what would that be?
The drink I have chosen is called the Black Lady.
Oh, nice.
We're going to need Grand Marnier,
Yeah, close enough.
Kahlua, and brandy.
Ugh.
Another all alcohol one for you,
Is it a
Karen.
shot?
No.
Okay.
2 ounces of Grand Marnier, half an ounce of Kahlua, and a dash of brandy. Make it just like the one we just made today. Put them in a cocktail shaker, shake it up, and strain into a cocktail glass.
Wow, that's going to be interesting.
Black Lady.
It's not black or anything. I wonder why it's. Oh, maybe it is with the
Kahlua is a little
Kahlua. It
dark.
might. Yeah, maybe it is. All right. Well, that'll be interesting.
Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, I'd like to thank our listener. You know, Greg, there are a lot of podcasts out there. So we're very happy that sometimes some people like to spend time with us. What about you? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.